Welcome to Unit 1, Operations and Productivity. These are the different outcomes in this particular unit. We'll be first defining supply chain and operations management. We will also discuss about the different industry associations and the reasons for studying this course. We also discuss a bit on the history of operations management and the current functions that operations managers perform. Subsequently, we will be explaining why the operations management functions differ between a goods industry and a services industry. We will be seeing how the services industry has grown in the last few years and the current trends in the operations management. From 1.5, the focus will be on some numerical examples. We will be discussing how to calculate productivity and explain the different variables that affect the productivity calculations. We discuss a bit on the concept of business ethics and corporate social responsibility and give some examples on both the things. We will also interpret how the operations management concepts are applicable in each of the units are applicable to your program or to your functional area. So to start with, what is operations management? So a term which normally comes up in operations management, earlier it was called as production management. Nowadays, nobody is using the word production. We use the word operations management. So production is generally related to the creation of goods and services. Operations management is a bigger picture. It gives the set of all the activities that help to create value in the form of goods and services by transforming inputs to outputs. So I would like to create a small block diagram here, which will be very useful for you. So for any operations management question, always remember this, just right here. So there is a small block diagram here, and you have inputs coming in and outputs going out. So input is here. This is the output section. And anything that happens inside this block is OM, operations management. So operations management basically helps to add value to the different inputs and helps to find some value added output. Let's see what it means. The subsequent slides. So the next thing which I want to take you to is the next slide is about supply chain management. So supply chain management is a superset of operations management. It is basically the integration of all the activities that help to procure materials and services and help to transform them into different goods and services, also helping you to deliver them through a distribution system. So let me explain what it looks like. So operations management can be considered as a subset of your supply chain management. So let me just start with the block diagram which I have shown in the previous slide. So let me say that over here. So I have a block diagram here. I said operations management is anything that is going inside. This is input. And from this, you get your outputs. So there is an input and there is an output coming out of this. So there is an output. This is for operations management. Now, how do we get the input? So let me give an example. Think of this particular block as a car manufacturing company. So the inputs that go inside that particular car manufacturing company could be the steel that is used for manufacturing your car. It could as well be the tires. It can be the plastic, the mirror, the seats, all the thing go inside this particular block diagram. So if this is a car manufacturing company, these are the different inputs: steel, tire, rubber, and so on. The output from this particular block is the cars which are being manufactured. So input is steel, output is, say, a car which is manufactured. Now the question is, okay, now that I finished my output, I need to make sure that my output actually reach my final customer. It's not just the output, it has to reach the customer as well. So that's what the supply chain management is dealing with. So supply chain management, same way, when I said about, okay, my inputs are, say, steel, so someone has to help in getting the supply the steel to the company. So this block diagram which you're seeing here is your supply chain management for a car manufacturing company. So this, so let me just explain what it shows here. So we can say that operations management is a subset of your supply chain management. So in operations management, the focus is only on this block diagram: input, this block, and then this output. So that's all operations management represent. And if we add two more entities to this, they are the suppliers and the finished, so if the final customers, that's what is supply chain all about. So that's what is given in the definition. So always remember, today the competition is on, it's no longer between the companies, it's between the supply chains. How efficiently can I get the material from my supplier? How effectively can I help the final output reach the customer at the fastest pace? So today's competition is all about supply chains thing. So the objective of the supply chain is to maximize the value to the ultimate customer. So if you have any question in this course where you want to think about supply chain, always try to create a block diagram like this. Start with the supplier, see what the supplier is providing as input, make a block diagram, understand the factory, what is that factory trying to get out, or if it's a car manufacturing company, the output was cars, and how that final output is reaching the customer's end. So this is what we need to do when we are doing a supply chain management course. Now, going forward, there are lots of industry associations which are important. Supply Chain Canada is one of the most important industry association which helps in supply chain promotion and things. And PMI is the Project Management Institute. So it offers various certification courses which are really valuable if you want to focus on project management and so on. So let me go forward. So the question which most of you might be having is why we study operations management. So there are multiple reasons. If you see this, input, the block diagram, and output is what operations management is all about. So the first reason for studying operations management is it's one of the three major functions of any organization. We want to know how this particular block is working. So I'm just trying to, I will be drawing using this block diagram often. So the block diagram I am referring to is, just drawing it once more, input, output, and this thing. So let me just draw it here. So it's input I going inside a block diagram. There is an O coming out of it. This is your OM. So operations management is just this block diagram. We want to know how how things work inside this particular block diagrams so that we get a productive enterprise. We want to know how goods and services. So output is your, say, in a car manufacturing company, we had a output as the different models of cars. So we want to know how we are actually able to convert the different materials and make them into a car, for instance. That could be the second motivation for studying operations management. The third thing is there is a reason. So we have seen, I will try to show how in our lecture, I will try to explain how much operations managers typically make as salary. So there is a reason for us to know what is it that the operations managers do in their day-to-day working. And operation, as you can see here, so if my process of converting inputs to outputs is not efficient, it is gonna create lots of costs to an organization. I will have lots of wastages happening. So I need to be clear, it's a very costly part of an organization. So these are the four different reasons for studying operations management. So there's always a question of goods and services, which we'll be discussing a bit further. So one of the things which we said is operations is one of the three important functions that any organization performs. So what are the other two? So this is a very important aspect which you need to understand. So even if you are doing your course in marketing, so understand marketing is one of the most important things which help an organization to generate the demand. So these three aspects, so the three aspects are marketing, production, and or operations, and finance and accounting. So these are the three different aspects, essential functions that any organization performs. Now going forward, so that you might see that, okay, human resources is not explicitly shown in this thing. Human resources fall within the perspective of operations, because if you don't have human beings, if you don't have the right set of skilled labor for helping make the car which you are trying to do, so you will not be able to produce the thing successfully. So you need to have the human resources coming within the operation. So remember the three functions: marketing, operations, and finance or accounting. Now, let's try to understand some examples given in this. I'm not reading everything. So for example, let's take an example of a commercial bank. So think of, say, RBC or TD Bank. So what is the operations part of a commercial bank? If you try to think of it, the way in which the bank operates, the way in which they have the people sitting there, the scheduling. So when you go there, if you carry a check, you try to give it for clearing, you get the money in a few minutes or few seconds. So there should be someone to collect that particular thing from you. There should be a process of clearing the checks. There should be a process of arranging the, that's called as a facilities design or layout. So when you go there, you actually wait in a queue and till one of the counters or one of the servers become empty. Once the counter becomes empty, you are directed towards that counter to do your process. So that's a process which happens inside the bank. Now about the maintenance. So if there is something wrong with the ATM machine, someone gets to see that, okay, you insert your ATM card inside the machine, you are getting the money out of it. So that's an operation which is happening. Now, what's the finance part of a commercial bank or a TD bank or an RBC? They do have different structures called as, they speak about investments, about security, about real estate, about giving mortgages, and different tools which they are having within the bank that helps to create business for them. That's the finance part of it for a bank. Now, coming to the marketing part of, so marketing is, for instance, we see lots of advertisements, lots of online as well as in the physical form. We see how the mortgage, the rates are lower in TD Bank. The different agents who contact you and saying that, okay, we can help you to get a personal mortgage or for buying a car and so on. All the things come under the marketing part of it. So there is another example for an airline, which I'm not reading, but it's interesting to understand how operations, finance, and marketing actually support the working of the airline. So these are the three important things which you need to remember. The same way in any manufacturing company. So I was telling about the manufacturing of a car, how manufacturing a car, what are the different operations which are involved, the financial part of it as well as the marketing part of it is there. Now, just a quick example. So this example is from your own textbook. If you try to see how each of these items, marketing, finance or accounting, and operations management, help a company become profitable. Let's try to see a quick example. It's okay even if you don't have much of an exposure to the accounting statements before. It's interesting to see. Let's look at the current situation. You have a sales of around 100,000 and you are making a, say, profit contribution is like a profit. You are making a profit of around, say, $10,500. Now, if you want to, so for instance, if you are trying to create, see how marketing can help to increase the contribution. So for instance, you launched a new campaign. As a result, the sales actually increased. If you see here, the sales has increased from 10,000, 100,000 to 150,000. So due to the increase, due to the marketing reasons, you launched some campaign, there has been an increase in the sales, which has helped to increase the, see, the contribution by a certain amount. Instead of 10,500, we have now $18,000 as the contribution. Now let's see a second option here. How can finance or accounting help the company, for instance? If you see in this particular case, so one of the attributes which is coming in this example is the finance cost. So finance cost is something like, for example, you have taken a loan, you have your own place where you are doing your business, you have taken a loan from a bank or some other lender, and you are paying monthly, say for example, $6,000 as your interest, as your, that's the money you pay each month to that particular lender. But if you are trying to change the lender, if you're looking for another lender who can provide at a lower cost, for example, if it reduces from 6,000 to 3,000, if you can see that there has been an increase in the contribution. So finance, so marketing has helped to increase the contribution by increasing the sales. Finance has helped to increase the contribution by reducing the financial costs. Now let's look at our subject of operations management. So operations management, as I was saying, it's about input, that block diagram, and the output. So if you try to improve the efficiency of that particular block, and you are able to reduce the cost of the goods which are coming inside the thing. Let's say you negotiated with a supplier who is able to provide material at cheaper rates than another one at the same quality is not compromised, then you might be able to achieve significant improvement in the contribution. So this just tries to show how each of the essential functions of an organization can add value to the organization. Now, there is always a question on what are the different aspects that the operations managers focus. So the typical focus of any operations manager is planning, organizing, staffing, leading, and controlling. So these are the different functions which an operations manager will be performing. We will be seeing this in detail in our subsequent lectures. Now, though I was saying it is just a, so for instance, in this case, I'm just repeating that same thing. Whenever we discuss about operations management, always remember this block diagram: input, the block diagram, and the output. So whatever happens inside this block diagram is your operations management. So there could be multiple things which can happen inside this. It can be a design of goods and service, it can be managing the quality, or it can be process design, and so on. So there are multiple decisions which can happen inside that small block diagram, which you will be seeing in detail. So these 10 areas are called as the operations management decision areas, which we will be seeing a little bit in this course. So always remember, operations management is a very detailed subject. This being the introductory course, we will be touching the surface, or we're just on the surface of most of the points. Now, there is a case study on Hard Rock Cafe, which we will be doing in our lecture on Thursday. This will be your video assignment. So it is just to say how Hard Rock Cafe has been working from 1971. It has, let's say, lots of good food, music, entertainment, and how it is able to provide the different custom meals each day, around 3,500 custom meals. How does Hard Rock Cafe succeed in providing that? Now, what is the role of operations manager that you will be seeing in this? So now, where are the different operations management jobs? It can be in technology. So because the focus is to effectively convert your input to the output. So there are lots of areas in which you can potentially work. So some of the areas in which you can work are in the technology, in the strategic aspects, in the people development. So this is what I was saying about the HR also comes under operations. It can be in the customer service, it can be in the quality, the focus can be on the cost reduction, it can be on the productivity improvement, and so on. So there could be multiple places in which the operations managers or operations management jobs could be found. So if you are trying to see in go inside, say, Google, and try to search for, say, just say, for instance, if I just type inventory officer or inventory controller or anything, you will be finding, just select even, say, Ontario, or say Waterloo as your area in which you are looking for the job. You will be able to see that there are lots of options, and you will be able to find out the number of job opportunities which are available in operations domain. Same with the quality, just type quality officer, quality manager, quality assistant, anything you type in there, you'll be seeing the number of opportunities which are present in this area. Now, I go back to a little bit on the history of operations management. It started initially with a focus. So if I want to say, the focus initially was on the cost aspect. So till the 1980s, the focus was mostly on trying to find methods of reducing the costs. So there are different ways in which it started with initially the division of labor, about using the different standardized parts and so on. So we are not discussing much on the theory, but the focus, always remember, initially was on the cost. Subsequently, the focus shifted from cost to quality. So yeah, so once the different companies have understood that yes, operations management is helping to reduce the cost, the focus shifted from cost to quality. So which has been the situation till say the mid 90s or the end of 90s. So that's where you will be hearing lots about the total TQM is total quality management, just in time, and so on. And from then on, the focus, because it has started to become a digital world, but if in the last say 4 years or 5 years you have been hearing a lot on the big data and data analytics, it's all on the customization. So customization is something which has been driving. So that's why, so the one of the things which is not mentioned here, you might be hearing a lot on this big data and data analytics. Are these are the terms which is really happening these days. So there's lots of things being done from an operations perspective these days. So the focus is on customization. Remember, initially the focus was on cost. It has moved from cost to quality, and now the focus is on customization. So now we will be discussing about the third key concept in this particular chapter. What's the difference between goods and service? So I'm not gonna read out everything. Goods versus service. What are the different goods versus service? So today, if you look at say a car manufacturing company, so it has a tangible product. We can purchase a car from the company. So the second thing is, for instance, there is a consistent product definition. So when you go to a purchase a car from a dealer, you know that what you are expecting there. So there is a consistency in the definition. And production usually separate from consumption. What it means is you don't buy your car from the factory, rather you go to a dealer and purchase it. So the production, so you really don't know that car which you are purchasing whether it was made on the day before or the whatever. So there is a gap between the production and the consumption, and it can be kept in inventory. That it what it means is, once you manufacture something, you can store that particular thing in your factory, in your warehouse, in your dealers of place, and so on. So that's all what is about the goods. So one good example is a car manufacturing. Now let's think of what is a service. Now let's think of this lecture, what's really happening. So, or it can even be, let's say you go to an amusement park, and then you get that entertainment. You watch a movie in Netflix, you watch something else on YouTube. So what you're getting is a service. It's an intangible product. You are not able to touch that particular thing. You are able to experience it. And when you the item being produced, for instance, and consumed at the same time, what it means is, yeah, you're watching, you are trying to see something, and or let's say the best example would be, let's say you are going to a barber shop for a haircut. So you're going for a haircut. So the, in the case of a haircut, the it's an intangible. Yeah, someone is the person, the barber is cutting your hair. So it's an intangible product and you experience it. Yeah, at the end of it, yeah, you have a nice hairstyle. And it's there is the process of cutting the hair and you are getting that particular service is at the same time. It's often unique. It's like the hairstyle, for instance, the requirement, the demand from the customer is going to be unique. There's going to be a high level of customer interaction. There's nothing like a consistent product definition. So if I say that I want to have a medium haircut, and the definition of medium haircut for customer A and customer B is going to be different. So this is what a service is all about. We'll discuss some aspects of it. So the one question we want to always understand is, does it mean that in the case of a say goods industry there is no service available, or in the case of a service industry is there like there is no goods available? So this is a question which we'll be discussing in our lecture. So remember, goods and services are just two extremes of it. So we will discuss how the different aspects of goods industry, or whether there is any service component in a goods industry and vice versa. Now that's what is shown here. So haircut, or you going to a restaurant for having your food. Now what about that? So this is a question which I normally ask my students. When you are going to a restaurant for having your food, so is it a service industry or is it a goods industry? We will see that thing. So what is important to understand here is each of the business which you are seeing, if you see on the bottom side of it, this is a percentage of the product that is a good and the percentage of product that is a service. For example, what it means is each of the things, there is a certain goods component as well as a service component. So even for a car manufacturing thing where we are getting a car, so that's supposed to be a goods industry, there is a service component involved in it. Think of it, you go to a restaurant, you go to a dealer, there is someone whom you are meeting, the salesperson is trying to explain the things to you, which is a service. And you may get, say for instance, you are not going to pay the cash and get the car with you. You might be opting for a, say, a certain percentage. Say you might be looking for a leasing for say 5 years or 6 years or 4 years. Then there is someone who actually helps you to fill the documentation and things like that. So there is a service component even in the case of a car manufacturing company. Think of the other side of it. Let's say the teaching which we are doing. So the way when I'm lecturing, it is supposed to be a service industry. It's like an experience which you are getting. So I'm not really giving out any goods. But even in the case of say Conestoga College, in the case of teaching, there are goods components involved in it. Like the goods involved are you get your textbook and you get the videos now, you are getting the PowerPoint slides and so on. So there are some goods involved in it. And there is a mainly it is lecturing and discussions which are happening in our classrooms. So that's mostly a service industry, but there is a goods component involved in it. Very important to understand. And this figure just shows how much service industry has grown in the last many few years. So if you see in almost all the it's not just almost, in all the countries, all the developed countries, the service industry is really exceeding the goods industry or the manufacturing industry. And there are some of these how the things are being changed over the period of time. Now there are certain issues which are coming up these days. These are some of the new challenges which were not there when, see, a few years back when we were discussing about operations management. Because of the internet, because of the digitalization, there is everyone is able to sell their products in any part of the world. So there is a global focus which is coming up. There is something called as sustainability which is coming up. We will discuss a little bit of it in this chapter towards the end. So sustainability refers to using your resources effectively so that you don't really spoil the environment. You don't want to make your resources extinct. Now, there are things like lean operations, mass customization. These are the concepts which are coming up, which I will not discuss now because we are studying these in our subsequent chapters. Now, a little bit on the sustainability and ethics part of it. As I said, the traditional approach in manufacturing has been like, I want to somehow make things at the lowest cost. But currently, so when you say the lowest cost, you might resort to methods which can affect your environment. You will be using your air and water in whatever way you want. But currently, there has been so much of focus on using the natural resources in an effective way. So there is a sensitivity to the environment, and ISO 14000 is the standard which is normally regulating the way of doing business in a better way. So today people are sensitive to the production that we hear a lot about the concepts called green manufacturing, recycling the things and so on, which is there now. So it's all a recent change which has happened in, say, the last 10 to 15 years, which was not there earlier. And ethics and regulations have now become really important. So ethics typically refers to, see, the polluting the atmosphere or water, corruption, child labor. So these things are definitely not accepted these days. So you need to have a highly ethical way of doing business, even though it can be slightly costly to do such a business. What it means is if you're doing your business in Canada, it is, and you find that in some place in the some part of the world where you can actually produce this material at cheaper cost because they are doing child labor or whatever, or destroying the atmosphere, you may still decide not to go to that particular place and do your business because of your ethical reasons and your social responsibility. So today, so remember, these ethics and sustainability are becoming very important these days. Now we are reaching towards the next part of it, which is the productivity challenge. So remember productivity. So before going to productivity, I just will again go back to my favorite block diagram, which I have been showing. So you have your, let's say, yeah, inputs, and you have a block, and there is this output. So in this block diagram, productivity refers to the ratio of outputs divided by the inputs. So if you are able to get this ratio, if this ratio is higher, what it means is you have a really good productivity. So the focus is always to improve the productivity. So let's try to understand. So production is a measure of the output only and not a measure of the efficiency. What it means, let's try to understand this. So let's take an example which is there in the next slide. So this is what I was trying to say. Inputs, outputs. There is a block diagram, which is the transformation part of it, which is your operations management. So the different inputs which we are discussing are could be the labor, it could be the capital, it could be the management. The outputs could be the goods and services in it. So this is about the economic system. If you're trying to find for the economic system how it works, these are the inputs and these are the outputs. So remember, the Canadian economics system transforms inputs to outputs at about 2.2 percentage increase in the productivity per year. So that's like your GDP part of it. And the productivity increase is the result of a mix of, say, capital, labor, and management. So these are the three things which we discuss normally when we discuss about productivity. Now let's go and see some examples. So, sorry. So the first example which we are going to see is the definition of productivity. So the productivity is defined as the number of units produced divided by the inputs used. So there should be a method of measuring the. So productivity is the ratio of the units produced to the input used. So it's a measure of the process improvement. So if you are able to produce more units with the same amount of inputs, so you have a better productivity. So the focus of any operations manager is to have higher productivity. So let's take some examples here. Now, yeah, it says about the how Starbucks productivity was improved. So a team of 10 analysts continuously look at, so in Starbucks, there is a focus on operational improvement and how much it has helped to create a better revenue. So what it says is operational improvements have actually helped Starbucks increase yearly revenue per outlet by 200,000 to 940,000 in 6 years. In 6 years, you were able to increase drastically your output by focusing on the productivity. Now, let's take some examples here. So, if let's say that if you're trying, so we will do some examples, more examples in our lecture. Say, if I say that, okay, I produce, say, 1,000 pieces, 1,000 computers each hour. So, and for producing the 1,000 computers, I am using, say, 250 people for doing the work. So the average number, so if I want to find the productivity, is 1,000 computers divided by 250 labor hours. That gives me 4 units divided by 4 units per labor hour. So 4 units is what I produce per labor hour. So this is called as a single factor productivity because I consider only the labor in this example. Now, let's say a student writes 5 pages essay in 2 hours. So let's try to see this example. So the productivity will be, how much is the student's productivity? So the productivity is 5. If I see here, it's 5 divided by 2, which is 2.5 page per hour. So you always have to note down the units. So if you don't write the units, you can make mistakes and I will reduce your marks. So please make sure that you write down the appropriate units here. So 5 pages divided by 2 hours is 2.5 page per hour. Now she attends a seminar on research and now she can write 8 pages per hour. So her initial productivity was 2.5 pages per hour. Now, after attending this seminar, her new productivity is 8 divided by 2, which is 4 pages per hour. So that's her productivity now. So it's pages per hour. So the third question, so this is a very important question. What's the initial productivity? So the initial productivity was 2.5 pages per hour. High new productivity is, say, yep, 4 pages per hour. So the third thing which is very important, or just a sure short numerical question for you, is to find the percentage change in productivity. So remember, percentage change is calculated using this formula. We do the new, we take the difference of new and old. So the new minus old, and we divide, the base is the old productivity. So please see this, new minus old divided by old multiplied by 100 percentage. So in this example, so the initial productivity was 2.5. This is there. we have the new productivity. So if I want to find my percentage change in productivity is 4 minus 2.5. This is the change in the productivity. I divide this by 2.5 in multiplied by 100 percentage. So which is equals 1.5 divided by 2.5 multiplied by 100 percentage, which gives me 60 percentage. So 1.5 divided by 2.5 multiplied by 100 percentage is 60 percentage. So my increase in productivity is 60 percentage. So you have your old productivity, you did something to increase your productivity, and the question is what's the percentage change in productivity. So this is a formula which you need to understand. It is new minus old divided by old multiplied by 100 percentage. Now I'm not going to solve. Let's look at this thing. I'm thinking it's very easy here. So in the first case, the student is working at a restaurant for, see, he serves 15 clients over the 3 hours. So his Sunday's productivity was, how much is his Sunday's productivity is 15 divided by 3, which is 5 clients per hour. So this is his 5 clients per hour is his productivity. But on Monday, he is able to serve 21 clients in 3 hours. So his current productivity is, on Monday's productivity is 21 divided by 3, which is 7 clients per hour. So his productivity has increased from 5 clients per hour to 7 clients per hour. So I'm not going to solve this question 1.5. You can try to do this one, but please understand. So what's the difference? What's that percentage? If the percentage change in productivity, which we are not solving here, I'll just try to solve that as well. So the percentage change in productivity is new minus old divided by old multiplied by 100 percentage. So which is 2 divided by 5 into 100, which is 40 percentage. So that's the increase in the productivity. Increase in productivity is 40 percentage. Now let's go to the definition. We are not solving any numerical question from multi-factor productivity. So in the examples which we have seen, we have considered only one input. So we have seen earlier labor, capital, material, see, energy. There could be different factors which can affect your productivity, but we were looking at only one factor. So if we are considering all the different factors in our productivity, it is called as a multi-factor productivity or a total factor productivity. You will not be having any numerical questions from this, but there could be a question asking what is a multi-factor productivity. So you need to know that yes, it's the productivity that is measured again by output to input, but the input is not a single factor anymore, it's multiple factors. So there are more examples here which I am not trying to. So you don't need to really know to solve multiple factor productivity, which is not there. Now the different factors we saw, like say labor. So in Canadian economy, labor contributes to about say 10% of the annual increase in our say GDP. Capital contributes to around 38% and management contributes to around 52% of it. Now for getting better productivity, labor productivity, we need to have say skilled labor. We need to have better education for the labor force. There should be proper food and nutrition. There should be nice challenge in the working place. It should be safe. It should be not polluting. They should not be creating threat to their working thing. So it shouldn't cause injury and so on. So there are multiple factors that can help to increase the labor productivity. Now, this is the next part of it, which we have been doing when we were doing the productivity examples. We were doing the case of, say, writing the number of pages or serving the number of clients. These factors can be directly calculated. Now, in the case of a service industry, let's think of a barber shop. It's very, very difficult. It's often very difficult to mechanize or automate the process. So the thing is, the barber is there, he's going to serve one customer. And if, as I said earlier, a person asking for having a medium style of haircut, so my experience or my requirement will be different from another customer who asks for the same type of haircut. So it's impossible to actually evaluate the quality in the case of a service industry. So the only way in which it is possible is asking a customer feedback and understanding whether things are going good or not. So this is something which I would like to discuss in our lecture. So it's always easy to measure the productivity in the case of a goods industry, but in the case of a service industry, it can become really challenging. Now, a little bit more on the ethics and social responsibility. So we have seen this thing. So the focus is to develop and produce products that are safe and are high quality, and it doesn't create problems for our workplace or for the environment which you are working on. And this is the last bit of it for this particular lecture. So how does operations management apply in your area? So this is something which you will be discussing. So you might be studying in, say, an accounting course or a marketing course, or you might even be in the business, so different course, or in the supply chain course, or in purchasing. So we'll try to see in the lecture how operations management actually can help you become a better person in their area. So this is something very important. And one more thing I would like to discuss, which in our lecture, is operations management is not just for the industries. You it can the philosophies, the concepts which we are studying in this course can be used for the self development as well. It can be taken as a self help. So we speak about productivity. So every day we can try to ask ourselves, so was it a productive day for me? So when you're trying to look for the productivity, try to look for the inputs you had. So input was, let's say I was sitting in front of the computer for, say, 8 hours in a day. And in 8 hours, what was my target, and how much did I finish on that particular day? So if you see that, okay, I could finish all the things that I was planning to finish, yes, it was a productive day for you. But if you couldn't finish due to some other factors, issues could be some aspect, some part of the job which you thought was easy took far more time than it should have taken. So then you can try to improve upon that. You might be the delay could be due to the lack of your skills in that particular topic. Try to develop your skills on it and be more productive. So anything which we study in this course, please remember, can be applied to any industry, and it can be applied to us as well. So that's the last bit of it. And just a quick review. So we just started with the definition of supply chain and operations management. We went through the different associations, and I said the 4 different reasons for studying them. And we discussed a little bit on the history. It started with the cost focus, then it has moved to the quality focus, and currently it is on the customization path. And we discussed about the difference between a goods industry and a service industry. And I said, irrespective of the industry, there is a certain percentage of goods and service involved in it, be it an automotive where we assume that it's mainly a goods industry, there is a component of service in it. The same way with teaching, for instance, it appears like a service industry, but there is a component of goods in it. And we have seen how service industry has grown in the last, say, 20-25 years. And we took some examples on calculating the productivity. And in our numerical calculations, we were looking at a single factor productivity, but there is something called as a multi-factor productivity, wherein we consider the different aspects. And we discuss a little bit on the role of ethics and CSR, corporate social responsibility. And we try to, so this 1.7 is something which we'll try to use in our lecture. We'll try to see how some of these concepts can be used in your own program or in your own functional area. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much. See you on Thursday.